me ask you a question about Soviet behavior. In Ronald Reagan's first term, they smashed Solidarity. They've used poison gas in Afghanistan. They have attempted to assassinate the Pope, and they shot down KAL-7. Reading your book, I get the impression if only we knew them a little better, we would like them.
Doesn't matter if we like them or not. Doesn't matter if they're the most evil monsters on earth.
Why doesn't it?
Because if we don't get to work with them and make peace with them, we're going to blow ourselves up. And the dictum says if you don't like the guy on the other end of the lifeboat, you don't drill a hole in his end to fix him.
Okay.
Before Pat gets into the numbers, can I raise the problem that I mentioned earlier that she puts in her book, which astonished me, I must say, Dr. Caldicott. I hadn't thought about it before. Mm-hmm. Are you saying that we would be better off, say we have a safer world, if all our male leaders would start behaving like women?
I'm talking about the anima that Jung described, the positive feminine principle which men can have, which is the nurturing, loving, caring principle, which is atrophied in most males, particularly those in Washington and the Kremlin. And men have got to get in touch with their feelings, Tom. I think we need to redefine courage for men in the nuclear age. A strong man and a man who's attractive to women is a man who's had the courage to get in touch with his feelings and to admit he makes mistakes. That's hard for a man to do. A weak man is a man who shows no emotion, who hides behind a defense mechanism and builds missiles. And such a man has a case of acute missile envy, and you could see a lot of them around Washington.
Hold it now. You mean the United
Is it not possible that we're addressing one right now?
Well, Dr. Caldicott.
Pat talks about missiles as though he were going to catch them and throw them back.
Now, you're not seriously suggesting that the president, let's say Eisenhower, and who initially built up America's strategic defense based on missiles, bombers, and submarine, was acting out of some Jungian or Freudian idea of sexual envy or virility. I mean, it's almost an absurdity to suggest that, I would think, for an intelligent person.
Oh, I don't think so. Look at the way, you read the Washington Post every day. On the front page, they've got bigger ones than we've got, bigger throw weight, greater megatonnage. We've got to have ones like that. Boeing have made a model of the missiles, and the Russian ones are big, clumsy, and inaccurate. The American ones are small and highly accurate. If you double the accuracy, you increase the killing power by a factor of 8. Okay.
Well, that's why we can have a smaller weapon.
Yeah, right. So the Russian ones are painted red and the American ones blue, and the generals take this model into the Senate chamber, and they say, Senator, how do you feel with the Russians having this great big red missile, and we've only got this little tiny blue one?
Well,
they get their appropriations every time.
The size, it's the capability of the weapon that the Soviets have a first-strike weapon.
Absolutely. Oh, no, it's the capability, and the Americans have very accurate weapons. But what I'm saying is, it's that dynamic which hooks the senators to appropriate the money.
And then the Soviets, women, hold it.
No, I want to say one more thing.
This all has to do with sex.
Let her say one more thing, Patrick.
The terminology of the arms race indicates a deeper psychosexual element. Look at the terminology they use. Missile erector, soft laydown, deep penetration, hard line and soft line. It's all there. McDonnell Douglas have an advertisement they put in Aviation Weekly for a missile that says, shoots down whatever's up and blows up whatever's down.
But Dr. Caldicott, excuse me, but you sound like one of those people they give a Rorschach test to every pattern on the paper. You see something sexual to do with it.
No, I think
I've never thought of this.
Well, I had never thought of it, but this is a family program. But I think we're.
But it is a serious program, Dr. Caldicott. Dr. Caldicott, why do the Soviets? Let's get away from that.
No, I want to say one more thing. I'm a physician, and if you don't diagnose the cause of a disease or the etiology, you can't prescribe the therapy. The cause of the arms race is psychological. It lies in man's mind, and it's not the weapons. It's the psychology.
Let me tell you what I think causes it.
Okay.
I think what caused
the Russians.
What caused the arms race and the Cold War after World War II, when the United States disarmed, we had 12 million men under arms. We went down to 500,000. What caused it was Joseph Stalin, the Berlin blockade, the seizure of Czechoslovakia, the invasion of South Korea, and all of a sudden the Americans who disarmed said, look, this guy Stalin was not our ally originally. He is not any friend now. We had better rearm.
America never disarmed. After the Second World War, where the Americans were the only ones ever to have used nuclear weapons,
we never disarmed?
Nuclear war, it was decided that America should build nuclear weapons on the theory that Russia would never get the secret, which was naive scientifically. Within 4 years, Russia built her first A-bomb. Then Edward Teller, who's
How can you say we never disarmed when you took 12 million men out of arms and brought them home from Europe?
Patrick, I'm talking about nuclear weapons. And then Edward Teller discovered the hydrogen bomb. Within 1 year, Russia made her first. And so the spiraling arms race was led at every step of the way, except one.
All right, let's tell.
No, wait a minute. The spiraling arms race was led at every step of the way except one, blindly and stupidly copied and followed by Russia. And so by America doing that, she has set up her own suicide, because our destiny lies not in our hands or the president's hands, but in the hands of a few frightened, paranoid Russian leaders, which you are quick to criticize, Patrick, and you don't threaten paranoid
Dr.
patients.
Caldicott, if we had not won the arms race with Adolf Hitler, then we might not be here even arguing about
That's a pre-nuclear question.
Look, Bart, who was Hitler's first and most successful partner? It was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics.
If Hitler was armed, as Russia is today, and America was armed, as she is today in the Second World War, we would now be, or our parents, radioactive atoms floating around up there.
Why do you say that? Let me suggest otherwise. It is the very fact that the United States and the Soviet Union have tremendous nuclear arsenals that we do not go to war over things like KAL-7, which, if you recall the Lusitania, when they sank that, it was almost a casus belli. We used to go to war over things we don't go to war over. Secondarily, no two major nuclear powers have ever gone to war with each other. Now, does that not suggest that these weapons, horrible as they are, may have kept the peace?
We've only had nuclear weapons for 38 years. Man has been on the planet for 3 million years. There has never been a weapon that's never been used, a weapon built that's never been used.
That's
38
right.
years in terms of man's evolution is a very short space of time, Patrick. And before there were nuclear weapons, there was no risk of nuclear war. Then we built nuclear weapons, according to man's theories, to prevent nuclear war.
No, we built it to win the war. We
Oh.
dropped it on the Japanese, if you recall.
No, but after that we built it to prevent nuclear war.
We didn't want to have 12 million men under arms.
That's
Dr.
right.
Caldicott, I share your fear, and I certainly share some of your logic, and I think your book is a good breakdown of exactly what's happened, no matter what Patrick said. But surely you would agree that you said that we've kept the peace for 37 years. Surely you would agree that the reason we've kept the peace for 37 years is that we have a deterrent, and the two sides are afraid to strike.
It's a crazy logic, Tom.
I know, but is it not the only one we can live on?
No, it's not, because look, if there is a nuclear war afterwards, there will be no one to analyze how it started or what happened or historically analyze it.
Let me stop you just a minute here. Just today, I think, several people came out, McNamara and some of the other people, Carter, and said, look, we can't build this stuff in the sky that President Reagan is planning because it'll ruin deterrence. Deterrence is what's kept the peace.
Deterrence meaning that we have to make ourselves naked to Soviet.
Let me use an analogy.
MAD, mutual assured destruction.
Let me use an analogy.
That is insane. Dr. Caldicott's right there.
I had a patient who came into casualty when I was just starting medicine 20 years ago. And he said his neck was broken. He said, I've been driving for 38 years and I've never had an accident. He had one that night and he was nearly dead. And so we can't rely on that. Our children, 75% of our children, when surveyed by the American Psychiatric Association, say they know for a fact they're not going to grow up. Now, you might say they're just children.
You seem to know that in the 50s, Dr. Caldicott, and you were wrong.
No, I didn't. Children are very smart. I treat children who die, and 4-year-olds have said to me, I'm going to die tonight, when clinically that wasn't apparent, and they do. They have been born into a world where they have no sense of a future. What have we done to our children?
Right, Dr. Caldicott, if we give up nuclear weapons, what's to prevent those 4-year-olds from dying the same way the Afghan and Cambodian children are dying right now?
Or the children in El Salvador are dying right now.
The children are dying.
Who died in Vietnam?
Well, what's to prevent that?
Nothing, but we can't destroy God's creation.
Well, I'm not talking about destroying it. I'm just talking about pointing a gun at the Russian's head and says, don't try it, because you know if you do, you'll get it too.
Patrick,
and so they haven't attacked.
Nuclear weapons are not guns. They're small suns. And if they're used, we will turn the planet into Mars.
Dr. Caldicott.